Good evening. As a preliminary matter, this is John Regan, Chair of the Auburn Planning Board. Permit me to confirm that all members are present. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Dwara Cashnallen.
Present.
Ron Brooks.
Present.
Sierra Samara.
Here.
Jason Assarifi.
Here.
Glenn Feldman.
Here.
Town officials and employees participating, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Town Planner Adam Menard.
Here.
Staff Assistant Danielle Chamberlain Roberts.
Here.
This open meeting of the Town of Auburn Planning Board of Tuesday, December 12th, now called to order at 7 p.m. This meeting is being conducted as a hybrid format under Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022. For this meeting, Planning Board is convening in person and by remote access. The remote access information has been posted on the town's website identifying how the public may join. Please note that the meeting is being recorded by Auburn Cable Television. Is there anyone here in the audience tonight that's recording the meeting? Being none. Please note that the meeting is being, accordingly, those members of the planning board, employees, and members of the public who participate remotely, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and please take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Please rise and join us in the salute to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All supporting materials that have been provided to the members of this body are available on the town's website. I would like to remind the audience, applicants, town administration, and each of the planning board members to please refrain from asking questions in regards to all matters discussed this evening without first being granted my consent. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. First on the agenda tonight is petition to the town of Auburn to designate Whitman Bailey Drive as a public road and maintain it in accordance with standards that apply to all other roads in Auburn. This includes the abutting sidewalks as well as all sewage utility service contained therein. May I have a motion to open the hearing?
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Okay. Jason?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Myself and I as a vote. This is now open. Is there anyone here representing Whitman Bailey Drive? Could you please go over to the microphone, state your name and your address, please?
My name is John Headley. I'm on the Board of Trustees for Whitman Bailey Drive Condo Association.
And you want to give us a rundown on what?
I don't know exactly what you're looking for this evening. I was present at the selection meeting last night. Didn't have enough time to prepare intelligent responses to anybody that might ask a question this evening because I wasn't presented a document until last night. But I can just tell you that the development is approximately 7 years old, and it's my understanding when the builder built it, he specifically requested it to be a private road. I don't know exactly why he would want that, but now as residents have moved in and it's complete, we are just thinking it would be in our own best interest as residents to make it a public road versus a private road.
Well, you have a lot of hurdles to get over because reading through the information here, that the road does not meet any subdivision requirements. The road's not wide enough. There's no sidewalks. There's no as-built for sewer, water, or drain. The cul-de-sac is too small. So I can't vote on this tonight. I'm going to have to table it for tonight because I need to get some input from our town council. But if you have a problem with the decision tonight of continuing it, I'm willing to continue this to the next meeting. Then you ought to talk to your builder. You know, I'll tell you why he did it, and somebody can call me a liar. He built the road too narrow because he didn't want to spend the money. He made the cul-de-sac small because he didn't want to spend the money. He didn't do any of the required as-built cul-de-sac because he didn't want to spend the money.
I can imagine that's probably true.
Yeah, but I mean, now unfortunately, you're in a bad situation because now that I don't know if you have a homeowners association.
Yeah, we are an association, and then we have a board of trustees, I
So now
didn't
you're,
exactly hear what you said. Well, we do have a sidewalk. You said there were no sidewalks. There is a sidewalk
on one side.
on one side. And when we first started this petition, we had asked the builder, Justin Smeldock, and I imagine he came in front of you guys in probably more than once. If this road is a private road, did you meet all the town requirements or federal requirements that you have to do as a builder? And he says, yes, we met everything. So we haven't heard back from him because we just got this last night about the concerns, but we are going to reach out to him to see what he has for supporting documents he's not proposing that he is supporting us, but at least we can get factual information from him.
Yeah, there's quite a few things. I mean, I don't know if anybody got Adam's memo regarding this, but I mean, the section 4.11.1 sidewalks doesn't meet, road length doesn't meet, there's no tree plan, no granite curb inlets, granite curbing at street radii less than 100 feet, type 3 HMA curbing, pavement thickness, we have no verification of that. I don't even know if the structures meet the code of the town, like the sewer manholes, the drains, the size, I have no idea.
According to him, they were, but again, I have
Also
nothing.
told you that he met all the requirements, which he hasn't.
Pardon me?
He also told you he met all the requirements to make it an approved road, which he didn't.
Well, I don't know if he did or not, but that's why we're going to ask him but he was granted waivers on some of those things.
Yeah, because it's gonna be a private road.
Yeah.
Town
So,
would not have to maintain it.
but there are sewers and drains. I don't know if you have the supporting documents that we submitted to the selectmen meeting showing the drains and the sewers.
It doesn't really matter if there's sewers and drains.
Pardon me?
It doesn't really matter if there's sewers and drains. You want the town to maintain the road,
Yes, sir.
which means plowing and sanding
Yes, sir.
for the most part, and repaving when needed.
Yes, sir.
Correct.
Just like you do every other street in the town.
Right, well, your road's only 22 feet wide by town bylaw, it has to be 24 feet wide. Your cul-de-sac's only 68 feet in diameter, when town bylaw requires a minimum of 100. So tell me how it met the town requirements. That's been a town requirement for a long, long time, since before he built the development.
So before we had any discussion this evening, my basic question was if he didn't meet them back then, and if they were changed today, that would change things and you would be more amenable to granting our request because now the road is wide enough and now the cul-de-sac is wider as examples.
You'd have to get a plan, bring it in, show us what you're gonna do.
Exactly. I know it's not just snap. There are certain steps we have to follow, but I'm just saying if we fix those deficiencies,
I'm not telling you it can't be done, I'm just telling you as it is now, like, we can't. Because if you bring in a plan, you have to hire an engineer, a PE, registered in Massachusetts, and you gotta show how you're gonna widen the road, how you're gonna put the other sidewalk in, where you're gonna put the curb inlets in, where you're gonna put the granite curbs, all that stuff. It's all right in the town bylaws, what you need to do, bring it up to a code for the town in order to accept it, to consider accepting it.
so I think we're at an impasse this evening and we can
Correct.
postpone this until when? And the next meeting or the next meetings?
Well, I can ask the board here for a motion for continuance to the next meeting. And if you haven't had a chance to, it's a short time, it's 2 weeks, to get it all done, then I'll ask for another continuance. Just stay in contact with Adam if you want a continuance ahead of time. So if you wind up being the only person on the agenda, I'm not going to have a meeting.
No, I understand that we're not going to resolve it this evening, but again, there's a lot of things that have to be addressed and we would need more time to work on those.
Oh, absolutely. You're talking a while, quite a while.
Yes, sir.
So, but I can try to continue it to the next meeting so you can get your bearings and see which way you're going to proceed. And then you can get a hold of Adam and say, look, we're not going to be ready for 6 months, let's say. Can we continue for 6 months? Then he'll bring it before the board and then we'll vote on it.
I think that makes sense.
Through the chair, can I just interject about what this is required of this board? This petition is going to town meeting regardless of any decision this board makes. We already talked to town council about that. So what's required from this board before town meeting, which is October 24th, is a recommendation from this board whether to town meeting accept the road, not accept the road, or to table it indefinitely. Those are the three options. You can certainly continue your public hearing, but the decision will need to be made prior to town meeting to advise town meeting as to this board's recommendation.
So we got three choices: accept, do not accept, and table indefinitely.
Or the table indefinitely,
That- well,
which would be,
our acceptance is whether we recommend it for town meeting or not, or table it indefinitely. And right now, there's no way in the world I can recommend to have the town accept this road.
Yeah, but John, if you're willing to bring in, make changes, according to what Adam has laid out here in the memo, I think that might be a step forward towards approving this as a town road. But at this point, given that it has received, waivers to term it as a private road, we cannot have it meet any of the specifications for a public road
At this time.
at this time.
I understand that, yes, sir.
So, but if you bring it up to, if you get an engineer, he'll tell you what you're gonna need to do, how much work it's gonna be, give you a rough estimate of what's gonna cost. It's not gonna be cheap at all. So, I mean, you're talking maybe making the road thicker, which means you gotta go in and raise all the structures, and then you gotta widen the road, and then you gotta pave the whole thing curb to curb, you gotta make a cul-de-sac a minimum of 100 feet in diameter. There's a lot of work.
I understand that.
Just letting you know. Trying to be upfront with you of the hurdles you gotta get over in order to make the town even for us to even consider recommending it for town meeting for acceptance.
Chair, one other point is that whole subdivision is one parcel. The road was never separated as a separate parcel like most subdivisions are because it was going to remain private. And all the individual building lots, it's all one parcel, they're not individual. So that's another challenge that will have to be dealt with.
Subdivide? So have to make actually divide the lots up?
We'll have to figure out some mechanism.
So I think my suggestion is we continue this to the October 10th meeting. This will give you about a month to at least gather some thoughts, get an engineer on board. And then I believe at that meeting, we can then make a suggestion whether we want to vote it up, down, or continue it indefinitely.
Yeah, that's good, because we at the same time may think or find out that it's not worth our effort.
Correct.
But at least it gives us some time to look into it some more.
Right, right.
I'm okay with that, yeah.
So may I have a motion to continue this to our October 10th meeting?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ron?
Aye.
Aye.
Jack, myself, and I, as a vote. I'm gonna extend you to October 10th.
Thank you.
Welcome. Next on the agenda is applicant Kimley Horn and Associates requesting site plan approval under section 3.2.6.1 of the Auburn zoning bylaws for self-storage facility at 319 Washington Street, Auburn, Mass. 01501, map 42, parcel 31. This has been continued from our August 8th, 23 meeting.
So I can go ahead and address, hi, I'm Caroline Armstrong, I'm representing Kimley Horn. For this, we are still in peer review, so that is the biggest hurdle that we have. The main reason I wanted to continue this meeting for today is to discuss if there's any other hurdles that we need to be aware of other than peer review that we should start talking about. And then I actually have one thing in particular to bring up as well concerning that.
I can just speak for the whole board, but if you clear peer review, the only thing that we may do is approve it with conditions. And they're never major, just minor, a light plan or certain plantings or whatever. It would never be anything astronomical.
Okay. And then on that notice, the one thing that we're also talking with the peer reviewer, but haven't, that could come up is the National Grid approval. that is something that we're ongoing with. One of the comments was from the peer reviewer about the slope into to their access. So far, they haven't had any issues with that, with the slope, but we're talking about the potential for extending the easement. It's currently about 85 feet wide, if I believe, and then they want to extend it to 125. There's a requirement from the peer reviewer that we're working on for the stormwater chambers that are completely maxed out. And if we were to extend that easement, it would encroach into where that underground chamber is. So that's why we're still in conversation about like whether or not that's something that they want to give up. Is that something that could be considered a condition of approval for like that final approval? Because that could be months for the final approval from National Grid.
Right now, the only way I can think that could possibly be a condition is if, let me understand this. National Grid's easement is 85 feet wide now.
They want to basically pay the
to
client for 125, right?
They're gonna pay you for it?
Yes.
So if you get an agreement from them to allow your drainage to be on their property, I mean forever and ever, there is no end date on that.
So,
End date on the easement.
right, so that's why we're also looking at the potential of not a straight line 125 easement, that it's 85, it tapers into 85 at the start of the property and then extends once the underground chamber is done. But that time and that process for things doesn't affect anything with the design. It just affects the coordination and the coordination between the client and National Grid. And because of that, that's taking a little bit of time, or could. So that's something that we're kind of presenting as a possibility for a condition of approval and sussing that out of whether that's a possibility or how much.
That's a possibility. I'll have to discuss with Adam or ask town council for a recommendation on that.
Okay, sounds great.
It's a possibility.
Perfect. Then that was everything that we needed to discuss. And just confirmation that as of right now, pending peer approval, that the board doesn't have any issues with, that they would like to discuss for being able to consider this for approval.
Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything, but it's been so long since I've seen the plans. I haven't seen the updated plan, so.
I have them just for reference, but they're still under peer review, so I can pass these out as well.
If you want, sure.
Okay.
John, one question I had. So on the National Grid's access discussions, they don't have any concerns outside of the easement expansion, accessing their property, for construction purposes or anything like that?
As in, just like anything else besides the easement width? No, that hasn't been brought up at all so far. And it's,
Would you be able to share any of that communication, just to make sure that there's nothing that's lingering from National Grid side that might come in at the end?
of course. I can forward on the emails that we've had so far. Some of it's been over phone, but most of it has been followed up with an email, and then can also CC Adam or whoever would be the best person to CC on conversation moving forward.
If you come to an agreement with National Grid on what you want to do, taper it in and back out, you have to bring us proof of that. Stamped, notarized, easement agreement with National Grid. Because I wouldn't feel right about saying, yeah, they want 125, she wants to take up, 40 feet of it, it would be there permanently, and then National Grid has an open avenue to sue the town for approving that. I'm not about to do that. You'd have to show proof of an easement agreement with National Grid, and it couldn't be for 10 years. I think that would have to be perpetual, forever.
Okay.
And if they may be willing to do that, I don't know. That's all. Anybody else have any other questions?
No, John, I think on the easement agreement, as long as, I think the term is important, normally utilities tend to give it on a shorter duration, 25, 30 years. But, in this case, it's going to be a property, so a permanent transfer of that easement has to be drafted out in the agreement.
Yeah, because like, say, 40 years, the storage facility may not be there. Somebody else might want to do development there. And if they don't have that easement, you can usually transfer that with an agreement from the owner, being National Grid, to the next owner. But if you don't have the agreement, then
Right, so right now, there's just discussions of if that's a possibility or if it's not even going to widen the easement at all, because in this case, the owner would have to potentially sell it off. So that's kind of like where the conversation is happening.
I'm guessing you'd like us to continue this to our next meeting?
Yes, please.
It's no problem.
Great.
May I have a motion to continue this to our next meeting of 9/26/23?
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Dorcas?
Aye.
Myself, John Reed, and I, it is a vote. Good luck. Next on the agenda is applicant Robert Lemansky for GL McKinstry Trust for a definitive subdivision plan for a two-lot, single-family home development with site improvements on the property located at Clare Drive and Linda Ave, Auburn, Mass. 01501. This has been continued from our August 8th meeting. Is there anyone here representing Robert Lemansky?
Yes, Jason DuBois, DC Engineering and Survey, Charlton.
So reading through the information here, I believe you met all of the peer review requirements.
Yes.
So I really don't know if this needs any discussion. Do you guys have any questions for him about anything? So I'm surprised the other homeowners aren't here because they were pretty up in arms the first time we came in and, you know, you're gonna cut down the trees to the pike and you're gonna ruin our life and this and that, but it's nothing I can say to them. I mean, you own the land and you meet the requirements, and I told them that, if they meet the requirements that the town requires to develop those two lots, then you meet the requirements. I just, pardon me? Oh, okay. I just hope that during construction, that you meet the work times of, what is it, 7 to 3?
8 to 4:30.
8 to 4:30. You'd have to come to the board if you wanted to go 7 to 3:30, 'cause that's how most people work today, not 8 to 4:30. And then, if there's any change or anything, you'd have to come before the board. You know, if you want to change something at the last minute. If it's in the building, then that's Caleb's department, the building department. If it's in the sewer and water, that's the water department, sewer department, so. Other than that, I don't have any questions or recommendations. Is there any? Yep, sure.
I think on one of the comments from the peer review, they did want us to confirm on the piping, the HDPE
Oh,
pipe,
yes.
whether that's acceptable or not. I don't know if, Adam, you know, based on your experience, or I don't know if we should reach out to DPW.
The DPW has to approve that.
So I think under just that one condition, as long as we get that confirmed.
Yeah, we can condition that the DPW.
Yeah.
Okay, that one.
Yeah.
Let me see.
Is that 15 to over?
Yeah, that's right.
There's two conditions. One is that to get the HDPE pipe approved by the DPW, they're willing to accept that. And then, to change the note in your plans that the raising the manhole with brick is a 12-inch maximum, not a minimum.
Oh, okay,
The plans say minimum.
okay.
It's a common mistake, but it's maximum. Because if you think about it, it's usually a 24-inch diameter opening.
Right,
If you got 3 feet of brick, how's it gonna get you down to the first ladder step?
right.
Or even get into manhole on a ladder?
Thought I updated that, but maybe not.
Those are the only two conditions I have. May I have a motion to approve the two conditions I've set forth?
I'll make the motion to approve with the conditions that John set forth.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Jason?
Aye.
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 Myself, John, is an aye, is a vote.
Good luck.
Finally,
Okay.
huh?
Close the
Yeah.
public hearing. Close it.
That's right, I'm sorry. May I have a motion to close
Formality.
the hearing?
I'll make the motion.
May I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Myself, John, is an aye. Now to be legal, I gotta read through the vote. So may I have a motion to approve this, the conditions I
I
set?
made the motion to approve with the conditions that John suggested and Adam wrote.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So, Jeremy, aye as well. Now it's in, so, you're welcome. Oh, no problem. I mean, you did your due diligence. It took a while, but, you know, good things take time, I guess. Good luck. Next on the agenda is discussion of 71 Curtis Street subdivision. I believe we have a letter from Fletcher Tilton from Trot Broder. Hi, Todd, how are you? And please present your case.
Sure. So Todd Broder from Fletcher Tilton here on behalf of the applicant Package Hog Farms LLC. Sorry. This project has a little bit of history, so let me just take you back before we go forward. This came before the board in 2015 originally and was approved as a subdivision at that time. In 2000, that decision, by the way, left open, a little bit open, a condition about drainage. And it shows up in 2018 when an amendment to the definitive plan was submitted and then approved, which kind of reconfigured the drainage basin, which is on the rear of the property. And it now outlets towards Town of Auburn property instead of, it looked like it may have had some objectionable intrusion into the neighbor's property as originally designed. So there was a revision in 18, which was approved. It looks like there was an additional, an extension at some point, and I'm not really clear on that because I didn't have a record of it, but there was a covenant that was filed and brought before you back in the summer of last year. And the covenant went on record sometime in the summer of 2022.
Before this board, Todd. A couple of years ago, we gave him an extension.
A couple of years ago, there was an extension granted. I think it was 2020, but I don't have the exact date. But I guess the point being, at this point, there's a bit of a history, and the expiration of the approval is November of this year. So ahead of that, you know, the applicant has been, I've been in conversation with the developer who still wants to do this project. And he ran into a number of hurdles, including some impacts from COVID and now interest rates on single-family housing in particular being very high and it not looking like a good time to proceed with the project. He asked me if he should proceed with some of the construction, thinking that he might not get to the end of the finish line before November, and I suggested that was a bad idea. So told him to come in for an extension to have a discussion with you folks about where the project stands, what might be the future for the project. I think he was favorable to that because he didn't want to have a project that was half-built, you know, trees taken down, dirt disturbed, et cetera, and not finished. So I had made the suggestion to him to leave the site alone so that it wouldn't be a big mess.
You been up
So,
there?
what's that?
Have you been up there?
I haven't been up there recently. Well, that was not the intent. So to go back a little bit more, so it's 4.2 acres. It was approved as 6 new single-family lots, carving off the existing single-family that's there. Each of the lots contains at least 20,000 square feet and 100 feet of frontage, which is still the requirement in that district. It will be serviced by public water, public sewer. And there were some waivers that were granted with the initial approval, which would still be needed. But the intention at this point is to move forward with the project, proceed with construction, and hopefully be in a much better place when we might need to talk again.
Here's my concern. I believe it was 4 years from his first approval, and then he came in that his partner was sick or whatever. And then I've been watching the property, and nothing's really happened other than making it a mess behind that house. He put up a fence to hide some of it. Mm-hmm. And then now he wants another extension. So one of my concerns is, I don't know if the property now or after November will meet the state stormwater requirements. They upgrade that almost every year. So it's at the EP, he may have to send us through a peer review again in order to get an extension after November.
So,
I can't stop him now because he's good till November.
understood, and I think, you know, I'm not sure exactly what the elements are of the stormwater system on the site. You know, the plans that I have are really just a logging plan and just a little bit of supporting information. You know, 2015 wasn't that long ago, but I do concur that the stormwater provisions have been updated pretty regularly. I guess what I would maybe request then is, you know, if there were an appetite to give an extension, you know, perhaps at this point where we do have a little bit of time before the expiration, perhaps we could come back with the stormwater plan that shows what was proposed at the time and send that through a peer review process and see if it does meet, you know, today's standards. It's either that or we would refile exactly what we filed before and ask you for an approval of exactly that, and you would go through the same process. You would hand it,
Peer review.
you would hand it to Graves for a peer review, and we would go through that, and we would come back. It's the same concept.
First time he came in for the extension, we were in the other room. And ask him to show you the plans after I marked them up.
One of the reasons, you know, going through the peer review process, you know, I'm sure there was some back and forth on plans. I'm hopeful that it did go through peer review at the time with Graves. I'm sure it did. I wasn't around, I didn't represent.
First time, we never made him do it the second time.
So the things like grading and those types of things shouldn't or wouldn't change, right? But the stormwater concepts and infiltration rates and things like that could change. Material types, I guess, could change that they require.
Believe it or not, there's a lot of water on that hill. You can ask the people at the bottom, at the end of that dead end street on the left.
Yeah.
They get flooded. So this whole property is high on the side toward Packagug and low on the side toward the end of Curtis Street. So by clearing all that land, what I fear of is creating more water runoff to the neighbors next door. And that's not allowed by law, you know that. I mean,
I think that's what the 2018 revision was all about, was trying to make sure that the water didn't go down the hill towards those neighbors, but it went, if anywhere, it went off the back of the property. It's kind of top of the page to the right and goes up towards town of Auburn, you know, land if there is, you know, excess water out of that system.
I think we're willing to entertain anything that makes the right presentation, but I think you need to do your due diligence to see if this meets requirements for the current DEP stormwater runoff requirements. Water main size, sewer size, I don't know if that's changed.
Yeah, so I guess the benefit on the benefit for the developer, whether that's the way you want to look at it, is, you know, we wouldn't have to go back and review, you know, the waivers that were requested and you know, landscape things like that we wouldn't have to review. If we stuck to stormwater, I think we would get through the process, you know, hopefully a little more efficiently. As you know, these plans contain a lot of details, and I think to go back and revisit waivers, things of that nature, because there's a street width waiver. There's a dead end, I think there was a dead end waiver. Things like that would be, you know, would be a huge game changer if we had to revisit those waivers, and they weren't granted. We would have to reallocate lot sizes and things like that.
I'll be honest with you, I don't remember what the waivers were, Todd. It's been 2 or 3 years since he came in. So I don't know if anybody else has any questions regarding this.
I mean, from a process perspective, I don't know, Adam, you have a comment there, but from a process perspective, it might just be efficient to resubmit it, right?
It's never efficient to resubmit.
But if you're just, I mean, then we're just looking at it from a piecemeal perspective, right? We're just looking at the sewer, you know, and the stormwater information, and then if that goes for peer review, then the other pieces that were approved in 2015 might not be still valid. We don't know if it's still valid or not. So it's a risk that, you know, that the town is then facing, right? So I think, and again, it might drag more time on your end. It might delay more process for you rather than, again, if you're submitting the same package that you submitted back in 2015, if the only change update is for the stormwater side, then, it might be efficient to start preparing that now. Again, from a process standpoint, I'm just, looking at options for you, that works for you.
You gonna say something?
Adam?
Just to the chair, Todd, do you know if the applicants applied for a land disturbance permit yet with DPW? I know that was a big thing.
I don't know.
That alone is a substantial lift for engineering to go through for that kind of project.
Yeah, because that wasn't in place, even in 2018, I don't think, came about probably thereafter. Yeah, I guess my hope was to not revisit sort of every little aspect of the plan and the project, because it is, that is cumbersome and not efficient. Not trying to cut anything out of the process, but I guess we are, because we're trying to get to the end point where we push forward with an approval and get construction going in the right direction. So it's, obviously it's the will of the board here.
To give you an example, the gentleman that was just here before you, he came in last year to get his plans approved that they submitted 9 or 10 years ago. Did not meet any of the requirements. He had to go back through the whole entire peer review. I'm just letting you know, it's probably what's gonna happen.
Or I guess he can go out there and finish really quickly before his November deadline. I say that with a little bit of tongue in cheek, but that's sort of, because the approval is in hand, that
Right.
could happen. I don't think it physically
I
could
think
happen.
my question is your client actually planning to develop this? Because you mentioned at the beginning that now he's worried about interest rate and this, that, and the third. If he gets another continuance from us, are we going to be back here in another 2 years?
He tells me he has every intention to move forward with this project with due haste. Yeah.
So my question to you, Todd, is what are you looking for from us right now?
An extension of the subdivision approval.
I can't do that until November,
Well,
ahead of time.
Well, we're required to submit the application for the, for the request. I think it's 90 days ahead of the expiration, which we've done. And now, we're in now discussing, the assumption being he's not going to finish the project by that November 30th, I think it's 30th or whatever it is, deadline. So getting ahead of that to say, extend it out, you could extend it out for 6 months, 9 months, you could extend it out for a year. It doesn't have to be a 3-year extension. If the board felt, that this was sort of, we want to keep you on a short leash, a year extension would be acceptable, I think, in that case. And if the board said, look, if it's not built by then, we have to go back through the process and review everything else, we'd accept that.
So what was your requirement, Adam?
Sorry?
You had a requirement yourself that you wanted them to do something with the DPW?
Just the land disturbance permit. Anytime you disturb, almost any amount of land, you have to go through permitting process, which is part of the stormwater process, separate from planning boards.
Right, you gotta give me SWWTP, all that stuff.
Yeah, can be quite a substantial review. You're clear cutting trees and stuff, and grubbing trees, all that has to be analyzed.
And before I would feel comfortable giving him an extension, Todd, I would at least talk to the town engineer to see if the plans do meet the current stormwater runoff requirements by the state. That's just a quick look at the plans. Joanna, she has a few engineers there. It may take her a week to get it done, but I would feel more comfortable continuing this to the next meeting instead of making a dead decision tonight, until I have more information.
That's actually a great idea. If we brought the plans to the engineering department and asked them to do a review of it from, maybe sort of limit it to stormwater, so it's a little more concise review. And if they said it met current stormwater standards, and drafted a letter to you folks to that effect, that would impact your decision?
Yeah, they would have to draft a letter and send it to Adam.
John,
Well, oh, yes,
I
yes, sir.
just want to see him review it all, the engineers.
Well, I can't make him review it again now until after November when the date is done.
I think part of what the board wants to see is an actual good faith effort from your client that they're gonna develop this. Or if not, it's gonna start the process entirely over again.
He was supposed to move into the house that's on the property now. I don't know if he has or not.
I don't know. I don't know. You know, I found him to be sincere when we talked about his intentions. You folks have had a little more history than me with him coming in with requests. You know, I do think it's ripe for the project to move forward based on what he's told me. Other things that he had going on at the time and things that are different in his life at this point.
John, is there anything that can be sent for peer review? Or is it still the November timeframe? We'll have to wait till November.
Correct. You can't make him do something he's already approved for.
Yeah.
So, am I telling you what to do, Tom?
Well, so I guess I'm not sure I heard consensus amongst the board as to the, you know, if the engineering department reviewed the plans for drainage, would that be helpful, useful? Happy to ask them to do that. I can't require them to do it, but
This is what I would do. I find out when the last extension was given, the actual date, the time period, when it ends. You can ask the town if the stormwater requirements have changed in that period of time. If they have, you're gonna have to send it through peer review. Probably the entire project at that point.
I believe it was extended on August 20th, 2020. And the reason that we then get to November is because of the COVID permit extension, you know, provisions that would have impacted the expiration of the permit, because it would have been 3 years from then, but we get a little extra time because of when the state was under the state of emergency that told the expiration of those permits that were outstanding at that time. So that's why we calculated November 23rd of 23 would be the expiration of the approval.
So, we all know here, in reality, it's not gonna get done by whatever the date is.
That's why we're here, yeah.
Lucky if he cuts a tree by then. I mean, it's September, it's only a month and a half away. So I would find out if the stormwater requirements have changed. If they have not, I would request a letter from the town engineer to Adam saying nothing has changed in requirements since that time. And then we'll come to maybe our next meeting, I'll have the information I need to actually advise the board or recommend to the board myself whether or not we go forward.
If you're looking for us to confirm the stormwater, you know, provisions haven't changed since the last,
Or any other provision that's required by the town, width of the road, all that stuff. You're good until November. So, I mean, I can't remember, it's been a long time since I've seen the plans, Todd, to be honest with you. I don't know if that road's 23 feet wide or 24 feet wide.
40 feet, but it doesn't have sidewalks. So
40-foot right-of-way, Todd, or is it
40 foot right away.
So the pavement's gotta be a minimum of 24 feet. And I don't know how big the cul-de-sac is.
There wasn't a dimension on the plan that I saw. It looks
Should scale it, it's gotta be 100 feet in diameter, minimum.
100 feet.
Was that?
Looks 100 feet.
Let's try.
There was no, you know, the one-page lotting plan, which essentially got recorded with the reference to the covenant, doesn't. Yeah,
Showing, profile, plan, the whole thing.
yes,
Contours, the whole 9 yards, he's got everything. Or he did.
I'm sure that he does. I didn't have it in my possession when I was reviewing these materials.
But I would ask the town, whether it's the sewer department, water department, DPW department, especially the DPW for road width, all that stuff, because I assume at the end of this, he's gonna want to get this road accepted.
Yes.
You saw what happened to the guy that was here earlier.
Yes.
If it doesn't meet requirements. Because right now, he's not putting a sidewalk in, so it already doesn't meet requirements.
He has a waiver for that.
Yeah, but he didn't ask to have it approved by the town either.
Save that conversation for a future time, but if you issue a waiver according to the subdivision approval, he's met the requirements that were required of him at that time. I don't think that
But he
leads
never-
you to, then the town wouldn't accept it as a public road. But,
He didn't, he hasn't petitioned the town to accept it when it's done.
no,
He's not gonna be able to until it's done. That's gonna be way past November.
correct. There's no question about that. That's why we're here, in advance of hitting the November date. That's why we filed for the extension, because it's clear he won't make that deadline.
Until I get more information, and the board has the same information that I have, I don't feel comfortable making a decision on that topic.
That's fair. I would suggest extending out a few meetings, because I think the little bit of homework there, and if we need some interaction with the engineering department and the like, I think regardless, we're not getting this done in this fall. We have until November, I think, to sort of figure this out. So rather than, me jump up and down and say to Joanna, we need this today, which is inappropriate, give her some time to deal with it, if they can even take a look at it. And if the answer is, a peer review would be an alternative if the town's folks couldn't do that, then we'll have to do it. No, and maybe if that's underway, maybe there's a short extension that's granted. It's going to be wintertime anyway, conditions, so it's not going to get.
I'm willing to ask the board to make a motion to continue this to our October 10th meeting. That's 4 weeks, that's a month.
That seems appropriate.
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second?
Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Myself, John Regan, aye, is in a vote.
Okay. Thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Modifications, decisions on 771 Washington Street, we've already signed that. May I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes for our 8/8 meeting as submitted?
So moved.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Jason?
Aye.
I was absent.
I was also absent. I was online somewhere.
The street votes make it.
Yeah, and anybody can vote for him. The idea that somebody has to be at a meeting to vote doesn't really apply.
So you can vote. So Jason is an aye, Sierra's an aye, Ron, you can vote.
Aye.
Myself, John Regan, is an aye, it is a vote. There's no new business unforeseen by the chair. Is there a member town planner update?
Yes, on this coming Monday, September 18th, there's a housing production plan workshop here in this room at 6 PM. You're welcome to attend. This is part of a state requirement to update this, so I think it'll be televised too, so you can watch it on YouTube.
Anybody have anything else they'd like to bring up?
John, I'd just like to say that in the future, you ought to give a lot more consideration to what happened with Whitman Bailey Drive tonight. Because we granted that, all those waivers back then, because they said it was gonna be a private road.
Correct.
Okay? And
Just like our
then
town.
they come back and wanna change, because the people who are living there see that they don't like it like that.
That's what I was
It's-
concerned
it's
about with this next one too.
Unfair, it's unfair to the people that are gonna buy the houses there, because no matter what anybody tells them, they don't know it until after the fact, and they see what it's like. So I think we should just opt to stay out of that. Don't waive anything. It's full subdivision regulations or nothing.
Essentially, no private streets.
No private street.
But I mean, or if we do provide any such waivers, we will probably have to give them a heads up that they would, in order for them to come back as a public roadway, you will have to form.
Correct.
Yeah, so the chair not to drag Whitman Bailey in, because that hearing's been continued, so we shouldn't be discussing it, but in general, it's in the deeds. with an association, if a road is private or not, it says right there in any, and in the regulations and rules of the of the homeowners association, it's all spelled out in legal documents that in any homeowners association, they'd have to sign when they buy the house. That doesn't only apply to Whitman Bailey, which is,
Still, I
we're
think
not talking about right now.
as we ought to opt away from that. Just look for full town roads. And, not leave it. They have the room to make the bigger cul-de-sac, whether maybe had to cut out a house or something, a part of it, but they have the room to do it.
We don't know that, but I mean, if you're looking at what you're talking about, Ron, industrial parks usually stay private. Those have to meet all the town requirements for roadways, for width and all that stuff, so I couldn't say we have to make them meet every requirement if it's gonna be a public road, if it's gonna remain private, like I said, an industrial park. But you're right, if there's any intent to make that a public road, they have to meet all the standards. There may be a waiver here or there for probably something minor that isn't required, but
Like a tree or something.
correct. Tree planting, whatever it may be. Anybody have anything else? May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
May I have a second?
I'll second you.
All those in favor, Jason?
Aye.
Aye.
Ron?
Aye.
Myself, John Reed, and I, it is a roll.